Loki is one of those characters that gets better and better as the Elbaf arc goes. And if I'm being honest here, as a Luffy fan, he's definitely a pleasant surprise. Because if you guys don't remember, after Wano, where Luffy pretty much perfected his Devil Fruit, reached his peak with Nika and his Haki as well. Because you have to understand, really taught him the basis of Haki. But of course, Whole Cake Island, you got the Future Sight. Then in Wano, you got the 2 levels of Armored Haki and the Conqueror's Haki coding as well. And that was enough to take down Kaido, the strongest creature alive. Though there was a lot of help and he was lifting an island. But that's another story for another day. All I'm trying to say is after Wano, Luffy ran into, of course, Kizaru and Saturn. And let's be honest here, they were pretty strong. Saturn was pretty incredible with his immortality. Kizaru was pretty strong with his light speed Devil Fruit. But let's be honest here, guys, they weren't Kaido. So it's definitely gonna be fun to see Luffy actually go up against a challenge like Loki, who in my opinion is Yonko level. And when it comes to Luffy and challenges and the way he even met Loki locked up, a character that's not really a villain, more of an anti-hero, it's cool to see. Like, we've seen Oda tease this with us from the beginning with Zoro, of course, and they had that Whiskey Peak moment, to of course later on with Skypiea and Viper. We could even go look at the situation at hand with Eustace Kid during, of course, Sabaody, even Law too as well during that pre-time skip Supernova arc. But still, Dressrosa kind of was putting a lot of that to rest, same way that in Eddie's Lobby put that Zoro stuff to rest when it comes to Rob Lucci and the gap there. And Dressrosa was that for, of course, Luffy and Law and Kid and whatnot, because Law, of course, needed Luffy to take down Doflamingo. But I think Wano was really cool because we saw Yamato, a mythical zone with Conqueror's Haki coding. Now, don't get me wrong, I still felt like Luffy was above Yamato, but to see someone that strong, it was cool to see him competing with Zoro and Sanji. Like, Yamato was competing with Zoro and Sanji, and people still to this day think Yamato is stronger than Zoro and Sanji, guys. That's how strong of a showing she had in Wano. So definitely gotta say, Elbaf, where people are not even competing Loki with Zoro and Sanji, they already have put Loki above Zoro and Sanji. It's cool to see, and I think this Loki Luffy rivalry slash, of course, where it's gonna go when it comes to the relationship and of course the final war is gonna be fun to see. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn notification as we do a deep dive on Luffy and Loki and a lot of Loki and how Elbaf is building up this character to be great alongside Monkey D. Luffy. Now you have to understand, when it comes to Loki's foundation, this was actually built up in Whole Cake Island. Of course, Lola having a surprise suitor in Loki, Big Mom crying with joy, squashing her beef with the giants, and having the ability to, of course, control the Elbaf warriors, the giants, the strongest nation in the new world. And of course, this is, you have to understand, is Loki. Big Mom knows how strong Loki is. Big Mom knows how strong Harold was in Harold's prime. Yeah, Yonko level territory giants right here when it comes to the ancient giant blood. But I do want to say this, the fact that Loki was a surprise suitor to Lola, like, no offense to Lola, but you're not the sweetest girl in the face. To see Loki do that, I think Loki was actually trying to kill Big Mom for the revenge of what she did on Elbaf. Yes, I think Loki was attempting to kill Big Mom. And if Loki actually got into it with Big Mom, I'm not giving that clear cut to Big Mom, because Loki has had a lot of hype in Elbaf. Now, of course, Big Mom is a Yonko on the same levels of Kaido and Shanks. Even though I think Shanks, there's a gap between Big Mom and Shanks, they're on the same status there. So you got to give credit where credit's due. But still, I'm telling you guys right now, Loki could have easily, what we know about how strong he is, could have easily taken down the Big Mama, because she wasn't in her prime, guys. Even Elbaf, the beginning of Elbaf, seeing Luffy notice Loki's presence right away. Like, the fact that Luffy doesn't just stumble upon Loki, he feels his presence, and Zoro's like, what's up? And Luffy's like, do you feel that? And like, the fact that that's how powerful an aura he's giving in the beginning of the arc. Even Yamato never gave that much of an aura, if I'm being completely honest. I know Luffy's Haki is really developing, so he can feel things in a stronger sense since Wano, but still, give credit where Loki, yo, he's definitely showing out without even lifting a muscle, without the Sea Prism Stone cuffs, guys. He still hasn't had his free reign to go crazy. And just look at the lore of course, Loki. All of Elbaf's giant warriors had to team up to take him down. He ate the legendary Devil Fruit passed down from Elbaf's royal line, and I think it's a Serpent of Hell from the First World. I'm telling you guys right now, when Loki actually reveals his full power alongside Luffy, we're definitely gonna have a very uncomfortable conversation. In the Loki Luffy, what do you call it? The contrast, the comparisons really does get hyped when Loki claims himself to be a sun god. And we know, of course, that title was Luffy's title, Nika, which goes down to, of course, Elbaf's history and, of course, the history of the One Piece world. So definitely, the fact that he's saying that is insane, and telling Luffy that as well. Yeah, I definitely want to see where Oda's going with this whole Luffy, Loki, Nika connection here. I feel like the only way Loki actually acknowledges Luffy is if he sees that Luffy is actually the true Nika. Now, I do have to mention Loki having a special bounty of 2.6 billion berries is insane. And you have to understand, like, it hasn't even been explained why his bounty is special. But the fact is, you have to remember this: his bounty is bigger than Dorian Broggy's recently new and reinstated bounty. His bounty is bigger than the likes of Blackbeard as soon as he became a Yonko. Yes, that's right. And his bounty is close to the new Yonkos of Buggy and Luffy and Kid and Law off of their Big Mom win without him even doing anything. He hasn't really done anything. He's been chilling in Elbaf locked up for the last 6 years. If that doesn't tell you how strong Loki is, I don't know what will. I know people don't like to put bounty and power equations, but it does matter. Like when Mihawk got that nearly 3.6 billion berry bounty, it definitely kind of confirmed Mihawk is, of course, on that Yonko level status, guy. So bounties do hint at things. Not clear cut, but it hints at things. Of course, Loki definitely showed his first glimpse of insane Haki. The fact that he's blindfolded, he can't see like Fujitora, and he's using observation Haki to like dodge a Kong gun with ease. Not like a regular Luffy punch. It's a Kong gun, guys. Like, that's one of Luffy's fastest, strongest moves. The reason why Luffy brought out Kong gun was because Doflamingo said you're not fast enough with the power, and you're not strong enough with the speed. So that's what he brought Kong gun, and Loki dodged that attack. So that's crazy. Now, of course, the fact that Jaru said that Loki and his father Harold were trying to beat Nika. These are the two strongest giants I've ever seen in the One Piece story. One fought Shanks, which isn't crazy, and the other, of course, had a Karakazaki coded clash with Roxy Zebek. Yeah, these guys are peak level ancient giant blood monsters. And I gotta give credit where credit's due. I love when characters get that Odin type lore. And Loki at the age of 10 had innate strength, able to control the underworld beast. That to me is that Odin type lore. Kind of like the Big Mom type lore as well, when she like knocked out a bear as a kid with one punch. Yeah, I love when those monsters get that lore. Kaido as well has that as well, so it's cool to see. And don't forget, Shanks was the one who stopped Loki, and the world government recognized Shanks as a Yonko 6 years ago, around the same time he defeated Loki. That means to me, like, the fact that Luffy became a Yonko after defeating Kaido, like the fact that that happened, really shows the show. And of course, Blackbeard became a Yonko after defeating Whitebeard and Marineford and taking his Devil Fruit. It looks to me that Loki is Yonko level. The fact that he can catapult Shanks into Yonko status. Like, am I being crazy for saying that? I don't know. And this whole Luffy, Shanks, Loki triangle, it'll definitely be a thing in Elbaf, guys, especially when Loki's freed. And then you have the fact that the Holy Knights, this organization that are immortal monsters that know about Imu's existence and have powers bestowed upon them by Imu and are pretty incredibly powerful. They were on God Valley. Yeah, these guys who look down on humans and any other race that are not celestial dragons are inviting Loki to join their group. If that's not strength, what is, guys? They don't even know what kind of guy Loki is. They don't have no intel on him, but they're inviting him. That's how strong he is. I also found it very cool that Loki was showing his observation Haki versus Gonko, reading off her attacks. Of course, the arrows were a big deal because the arrows kind of project her attacks. So I'm not going to give Loki future sight for this, but I will give him strong observation Haki because he can't see like people. Don't forget he's blindfolded in front of this Holy Knight who's about to attack him. Like, that's insane observation Haki. And I will give him some durability like feats. The fact that he tanked Gunko's attacks. Like, we saw Gunko against the Straw Hat Pirates with Jinbei. We saw Gunko against Copper Gaban. Of course, Copper Gaban was not attacking because his son was there, but the fact that Gunko was able to damage him that severely shows that, like, yeah, she's not no weakling, guys. The Imu took over her body for a reason. And then, of course, there's also Shamrock, who let his swords, his Cerberus swords, unleashed into Loki. Shamrock, to me, is one of the strongest Holy Knights, if not two, probably one, when it comes to strength. And Loki tanked his attack for a very decent amount of time. That just shows how powerful Loki was, and he was still alive. He survived it. Shamrock would probably even be shocked to see him surviving it. And Shamrock promised him a fight, too. So if Loki does really well against Shamrock, oh man, the Loki haters are definitely going to be silent. I also want to mention the mural. The mural has so many deep One Piece lore, but the fact that Loki has blood ties to that ancient giant that was going up against Imu during the Void Century with Nika, and then of course you that legendary Delphi, which I believe is that serpent on the right side of the mural. Oh yeah, and the fact that the ancient giant in that same mural has the same design as that serpent tells me all you need to know, guys. Just like Luffy and Imu, Loki is of the destiny when it comes to monsters. Like, he's part of that destiny. I know Shanks really got the child of destiny thing, but Luffy with Nika, Imu with, of course, we all know he's been alive since the Void Century, and Loki are the destined monsters since the fight of all fights. Also gotta mention, Loki has this unique weapon called Ragnar that he can unleash lightning with pretty much relative ease, and Elbaf's weakness is flames, so he actually caught some fire to Elbaf's forestry. Yeah, that's insane. And the fact that I think Luffy will be the one to lift Ragnar, because he said all the giants are not able to lift it, will show, of course, Loki that, okay, this guy has my respect. He can lift Ragnar. He has the Nika fruit that I want, the Nika power. I think this is definitely going to be Luffy trying to prove to Loki that I am worthy of being your captain, the same way that Rox was worthy of being your captain, and I had that D initial too. Now, of course, people like to knock Loki for getting knocked out by a basic gear 3rd attack, but you have to understand, Zoro told Luffy to go easy on him. His damages, his wounds were disgustingly bad. The fact that he used all his power just to stand up and bluff, even Loki admitted that it's over, he lost. He knew that he wasn't going to win, regardless of what attack Luffy did, shows how weak in state he was. So yeah, let's ignore that. Let's turn a blind eye to, of course, that moment. That doesn't really, there's context for that moment, guys. And I think sometimes you got to use context for that, because like some people like to ignore it, but like there's some things that are for context. Even me, like Miyake and Visa thing and Marine Ford, I make jokes about it, but there is context, guys. Come on, like we know Miyake is not Vista level, right? I also found it very cool when Loki was relating to Luffy, when Luffy of course mentioned that his role model was Shanks, and of course Loki knows that Roxy's back. He had someone he looked up to, that was Rox, and even said that he was born in the wrong era. That is crazy, because Loki was actually born in the perfect era. Now Roger was too early. Loki was just in time for that final battle with Imu, guys, because he's of course been prophesized, not prophesized, but he's on that mural of course 1138. The fact that he is perfectly here with Poseidon, with Nika, with even Blackbeard. Blackbeard's even born in the right era, guys. I can't wait to see this epicness. And I love the moment where Loki and Luffy, I said Loki for a reason, I mean Loki and Luffy were competing with their observation Haki without even knowing, because Luffy knew it was Chopper, but Loki knew exactly where the Chopper and Copacabana were. I found that interesting and pretty cool to see that their observation Hakis are in the same level. Now you have to understand, Luffy's a regular human being, not even that tall as a regular human being, and Loki's the tallest giant on Elbaf currently. So it's cool to see that observation Haki, which is more of a skill of dodging and evading. But yeah, Loki, that being that big and strong, having that insane observation Haki, if you can't hit that insane character, oh my god, like imagine that big old guy just jumping around Elbaf and dodging all your attacks, and you're thinking, wow, you're already big and strong and now you're dodging everything. Wow, what can't you do, Loki? I also love the contrast between Luffy being concerned of Imu's great disgusting Haki that was unleashed through Gunko's body, and Loki's excitement. Like it looked like Loki was having an orgasm or something. Like what the hell, he was going crazy when he felt Imu's Haki and he wanted to be freed. Like he wanted that smoke with Imu. I love that from Loki. Like seeing a character have that reaction, it also shows Loki's dark side, but also shows how confident Loki is in his power and to fight these stronger characters. He wants to fight these strongest characters. That's why he lost to Shanks. You think he was ducking the smoke? No. I also found it very cool when Copacabana was giving Luffy Conqueror's Haki tips when against the Celestial Dragons of the Holy Knights and Imu. And of course, this all made it click for Loki, saying, come on, thank you. You actually made it click of my own power. So it confirmed that Loki had Conqueror's Haki coding. And the fact that Loki, that, like I said, that big old dude, the tallest guy in Elbaf, the biggest guy in Elbaf, physically looks like the strongest guy in Elbaf, has insane Conqueror's Haki coding and insane observation Haki. The fact that he's a Haki beast and we haven't even seen his legendary Delph, if I'm being honest, Loki has the potential to be even a Pirate King level, if I'm being honest. Of course, this all led up to Luffy asking Loki to join his crew, and he says, I'm not going to be your underling. I think this is a GOAT response because it builds up a situation where Loki does finally accept Luffy as his captain, and if that happens, that means Loki had to see Luffy do some insane things. And I think it would have to be against Imu on Elbaf, or against Shamrock, or even against Garlic who comes there. I'm not too sure who the final villain of Elbaf still is. Or it could even be Luffy versus Loki. Like if we get a Luffy versus Loki situation where Luffy beats Loki and earns his respect and he joins the crew through that, like the old Davy back style that Rox is doing, I would love to see that. And again, I gotta talk about the lore that Loki has. He has Odin level lore, like I said. As a baby, he was climbing the Atom Tree, guys. That is completely shocking that baby Loki's climbing the Atom Tree. Like, that baby was not even able to speak, like, and of course his mother threw him to the underworld. Like, that's just insane. Like, guys, like, of course it's not realistic, but he's an ancient giant blood. Like, it actually is realistic in that sense. And I found it very interesting that Loki was doing the Kaido tech. What I mean by that, it was he's actually trying to commit suicide. That's how much he hates his life, and he jumps down and he can't do it. I thought that was super interesting because that's Kaido's thing. Loki was doing that as a kid. You know, of course, when your mom doesn't accept you, it's gotta be the worst feeling as a child. And then, of course, we think about how Harold jumped off the red line. It looks like Harold, Loki, and Kaido might be a connection there. Their durability might be for a reason. We know Kaido has that ancient giant blood with the horns too as well, guys. So I can't wait to see what Oda cooks here. And again, like I said, Odin has, Loki has Odin level lore, like when he tanked Roxy-Zebek's attack, like his unique swordsmanship that's like a hammer or a cannon style. And of course, Rox attacks a kid with no remorse, and Loki survives it, and even Harold has to give him respect for doing that. So I'll tell you guys right now, Loki, since he was a kid, was a monster, guys. So imagine him at his old age right now. Like, he's gonna do some insane things in Elbaf. Be excited for Loki. I think he's gonna be one of the favorite characters in Elbaf, if I'm being completely honest. So yes, Loki is a character who's inspired by Roxy-Zebek, and of course he's interested in taking over the world. And honestly, guys, if I'm being completely honest, I think he could do it alongside Luffy. I think he has to join up Luffy. And Whitebeard talked about a great war at once the One Piece is found. I think Loki should be there when the One Piece is found, and I think he should be there when Im was fighting Luffy. And I think Loki should have moments of not trustworthy. He should betray Luffy, but I think he should come back around. I think Luffy and Luffy need to have a clash in Elbaf, and they need to have a clash after Elbaf. I think 2 fights are good to line up for Loki, one that's not serious and one that is serious. And I think Luffy and Loki, I said Luffy, I combined their names. Luffy and Loki are definitely making Elbaf some of the greatest arcs we've ever seen in One Piece, guys. So that's my thoughts on Luffy and Loki and the lore here, and I can't wait to see more of it in Elbaf.